As well as collecting toys over the years, I've also collected other things like funny limericks and what I would call wordplay. I've got two particularly interesting types of wordplay to show you, which I think are just amazing and are something perhaps you can have a go at doing. The first was shown by Martin Gardner, I think about 30 years ago, one of his books. It was called Decapitated Sentences. Decapitated Sentences? Well, yes. This is the one he showed. I'll show it up to camera, which reads, "Show this bold Prussian that praises slaughter, slaughter brings rout." I've got a bit of trouble with this. It's obviously poetic, but that second line really troubles me. How on earth could praises slaughter? Slaughter certainly brings rout. When you have the battle turns and the enemy runs away, there's a slaughter and there's a rout. So that's fair enough, but I don't quite understand that. But anyway, I'll let that go because the fun of it is when you decapitate, which means you cut out the first letter of each word. I've done it here, and I'll do an even clearer version for you. So there we are. There's a poem, and with a blue line, I've crossed through every single word. To save you having to it's a bit of an effort. So what I'll do is I'll do that, and this is what actually happens underneath, and it's easier to read. How his old Russian hat, hang on, I've got to have a Russian hat for this, don't forget. I've got to have a Russian. How his old Russian hat raises laughter. Laughter rings out. That actually flows much better as a two lines of poetry than the first bit, with the slaughterer brings praises. I don't know, but it's a lovely idea. I also think it's a little bit vicious to talk about some decapitated sentences. It's more like going to the barber with a haircut, and the barber's trimming each word, just trimming off the first one. So to start this, you've got to go through about 30 or 40 words, write them down, ones that when you cut out the first letter, still makes another word. Some of them change their actual type of English. Well, I mean, the first word there is show, which is I think it's a verb, turns into how, which is an interrogatory adverb. So they've changed also their actual English meaning. So it's a lovely concept, that, and something worth trying out yourself. Just take a sentence, cut out the first letter, and see if you can make another sentence out of it. That's what Martin Gardner is. So wordplay at its best, I think. The second one is much more ingenious and was invented completely unbeknownst to me until very recently by Lewis Carroll. This is the man who wrote Alice in Wonderland and was actually Charles Dodgson, an academic at Oxford University back in the 1870s or so. This is a poem he wrote, which I'll read out. It's quite sweet. It's not that obvious what it means, but I'll see if I can get it to come in. I often wondered when I cursed, often feared where I would be, wondered where she'd yield her love. When I yield, so will she. I would her will be pitied. Cursed be love, she pitied me. Bit odd, bit obscure, but poetry's like that sometimes. Now here's the clever bit, which I think is absolutely ingenious. The first line, I often wondered when I cursed, happens to be also the first word of each of the lines going down. I often wondered when I cursed. And the last line, for instance, cursed be love, she pitied me, is also the last line word going down. So this was pointed out in the books that I was reading. I thought that's very clever. But a friend of mine who's much more observant said, hang on, there's something else going on. So when you looked at it very carefully, what I did was I put it into a grid like this. I filled it up, and now you suddenly see every single line, every single column actually matches up. Let's see if I can get that to go. I often, when I cursed, and there's the column, take the second line. Often, read my, often feared where I would be, and now look at the second column. Often feared what I would be. The whole darn thing hangs together. When I came across it originally, it was in a book, a large book of word play, and it was produced like this. And it told me that it was invented by Lewis Carroll, and they'd only spotted that the first line did this magic thing and the last line, but not the middle bit there. And I swallowed that one, and when I took it along to show it to a friend of mine who's much more perceptive than I am, he said, hang on a sec, all the middle ones work as well. So that's when I realized you actually got to produce something like this to make it out and make it apparent. It's an extraordinary thing, a square poem where every line also coincides with the first line with the first column, with the second line with the second column, all the way through. So ingenious. I think that's absolutely ingenious. Do you want to have a go? I'd probably start with 4 lines of poetry and 4 words in each line and see if I can make a start there. But it's a difficult thing to do, and Lewis Carroll is obviously a very, very fine wordsmith to produce something like that. I think it's wonderful.